This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution. This is the future.
Hey guys, how's it going? Matt from Foulball Productions here. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you're doing well, because I'm doing phenomenally. Thank you very much. This is the 65th episode of the MFer Podcast. And I thank you, as always, for joining me here on this channel. I apologize I wasn't here yesterday. Sometimes things get in the way. Sometimes life gets real. Sometimes you can't show up to stream when you want. And, oh well, here I am today. I am back. Those of you whose Monday nights were ruined, I apologize. I apologize from the bottom of my heart. But I hope you're doing well. Hope you had a nice weekend. Hope you had a nice week. Hello, Sentient Dildo. You've changed your avatar. What is that? What is that? It looks like, it looks like someone who's like mummified is wearing a medallion and like a bonnet. I don't know what that is. But good to see you, pal. Thanks for joining me here today. Hope that you had a good weekend over there in Croatia. What's your opinion on the Ukraine-Russia war, Sentient Dildo? I know we've talked about it a lot on this show, but I don't think I've ever heard exactly what your take on it is. I don't know. Let me know. I'm curious to hear what you have to think about it. You being closest to anyone that I think shows up on this channel. It's Bekinski. Who's Bekinski? Beksinski? Beksinski. So, how am I supposed to say that? ZDZIS law? How do you say ZDZIS? Zdislaw? Beksinski? Why can't you guys just have names like Jeff and Bob? You know, what the fuck? He's a Polish surrealist contemporary artist. Okay. Oh, all right. I see the one that you have. Wow, it's dark. Oof. Reminds me of the guy. It reminds me of H.R. Geiger. It's very like detailed and kind of grotesque. Oh, I've seen that one before. I've seen the one with the guy with the mask on his face and he's crawling on the ground. That's creepy. Creepy art, but I think it fits you. It suits you. In what sense? In the sense that, I don't know, like, is everyone stupid? I imagine that's going to be your take. But I mean, like, you know, is Ukraine corrected? I don't know, just like your take in general. It's a very complex situation. It seems to be drawing Europe, I think, wants us to just go to war. with the Ukraine forever, or sorry, with Russia. I mean, for as long as I don't know, as long as it takes, I guess, to eliminate Russia is what it. I really don't even know what they want. Like they want to drive him out, and then what? Like, I don't know. Like it's a crazy position it seems they've assumed. So I don't really quite know. Like Europe seems to be losing their mind over this whole thing, but no one like there doesn't seem to be a lot of nuance. Like we're in the United States, I feel like there's a lot of nuance. People are just sort of like, eh. And then you kind of look into the history of like all these UN resolutions and the things that they agreed with, or sorry, not UN, NATO resolutions and stuff that they agreed with, with Russia. Like we won't expand, and they keep expanding, and then he wants to join. What's his name? Zelensky wants to join NATO, but that's like one of the big things that like Putin's like abso-freaking-lutely not. I don't know. I know I don't want to pay for it. Other than that, though, I don't know. It seems like a whole ass thing. Anyway, feels like a few more people have filed in here. That's lovely. It's good to see you guys. Thank you for being here. I launched a new channel. I launched a new YouTube channel. Because I had some ideas, had a lot of ideas. Wait, hold on a second. For like videos and stuff like that, video essay type things, especially about like film and television that I just didn't feel kind of fit in with the tone of this channel the way of late. I feel like I've been a lot more political on this channel, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. But I feel like I don't know. I have like these ideas that don't really fit in with the vibe here. I feel like if someone were going to watch the videos that I have conceptualized and then they saw these live streams, they'd be like, how do they connect? And they don't, I would say. So I started a new YouTube channel called Foulball Film and Television. I'll put it in the chat. And if you guys are interested, you can go subscribe. But, much like Our Hilts Hurt, like Flaccid Phoenix's new channel, only subscribe if you're actually curious about the content. You know what I mean? I think I do it all the time. Give like pity subscriptions and then never actually, not even pity, but like helpful subscriptions, to be like a nice lad. And then they don't, I don't ever watch the content. I feel like that happens to me as well, where I'll like, someone will be like, oh yeah, I'll subscribe. And then that's it. You never hear from them or see them again. So actually it ends up hurting your algorithm and like, YouTube's ability or like YouTube's likelihood to recommend your content. You know what I mean? So it's something that I think is going to be cool. Like I've got a lot of video essays up there. Like my first one is about The Expanse as to why, my kind of theories as to why the show, as great as I think it is, and I really do think it's one of the best shows ever made, why it's not as successful as many other TV shows out there. Especially it's in like, if you go to IMDb, it's in the top 25, television dramas of all time. Yet I feel like it's still a relatively anonymous show outside of those who know about it. But I don't think that's true about like a lot of the other shows in there. Game of Thrones, The Sopranos, Breaking Bad. Everyone knows those shows. But no one knows, very, very few people know The Expanse. It's just like, why is that? How could this show be so well regarded and still not, it's just still not a beloved, widely beloved show? Well, I get into it. And that's what the first video is about. And I hope that y'all, if you're curious, I hope you check it out because I think it's really fun. And I've got a few other videos that are a little bit more, I don't want to say apolitical, but it's not really the focus is to kind of like pick apart the politics of it or really even address the politics of it. It's going to be kind of more like in-world politics and a little bit more praiseworthy and positive and just sort of those different video essay styles. So I hope that you guys are interested because it's, I've been having fun with it. It's really been kind of piquing my interests. I've been really excited to kind of put them out there. So if you're interested, check out my new channel, Foulball Film and Television. New videos, coming. Okay. Essentially, Ukraine is stuck in the middle of a proxy war between us. Is that us? I mean, the U.S., I guess. Okay. They can't do shit about it but fight. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that that's been true up until Trump took office. And now I feel like there's a way out, which is to just sort of, genuinely agree to a ceasefire and, I don't know, like admit that you fucked up. Like, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, you can't like save face on this one. You can't, kind of be like, no, we'll get these regions back. It's like, I don't think you're going to get them back, without like severe military intervention from either the EU or from the United States. And I don't want that. I don't think Europe wants that for all their fucking tough talk. I think you just kind of have to be like, yeah, that was unfortunate, but, there were a lot of agreements that you could have made along the way, which is the one of just agreeing that you will not join NATO, and I don't know. It's, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, sometimes that sucks, but I don't know what the alternative is except for, endless war that could potentially lead nuclear. That's stupid to me. I don't think that's smart at all. 'Tis just geopoliticking between big powers. Little guys get fucked as usual. I agree with that. I think that is a succinct and accurate way to describe that. I keep my to a minimum these days. Ain't pity subbing to new people. Every cunt has a channel now. It's his too much. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's there's a lot of channels out there. There's a lot of competition. It's a lot of people, wanting in, and I get it. You know what I mean? I understand it. Like, it's something I'm still a little guy, trying to kind of push out. But, this channel, I've taken it like in a bunch of different directions, and I don't know, like I kind of hit a lot of dead ends where I was just like, this is not really working for me, where it's like, there's parts of it that work and parts that don't. And it's like, I'm like, I can't be consistent enough, because it's like, it's a grind, right? Unless you get lucky or you have like brilliant marketing and you truly understand the way the YouTube algorithm works, which I'm learning piece by piece, slowly. But for the most part, it's a grind, and you gotta grind it out. And for me, at least, I have to have like a reason why I want to grind it out. Like, popping on a live stream doesn't feel like grinding to me. I don't mind doing it, but it doesn't bring in anyone new for the most part. Every once in a while you get lucky and thrown in some kind of algorithmic wave, but for the most part, it's the same people. And then it's like on this channel, it's just kind of like, I don't even know what kind of content I want to do. Like, I was doing like those sketches and stuff for a while, and I kind of very inconsistent with those, and I don't know, like, it's harder to find ideas, and I don't know. It just wasn't as natural to me as I would have liked. And then now I talk so much politics on this channel. I was like, what am I going to do? Like, Trump's right about this videos. I don't know. But on the new channel, I feel like I do have like a world of ideas about film and television and stuff like that. And I don't want to compromise the fact that this channel has been muddied for a long time, with the potential of a new channel being much more streamlined and accessible to people coming along and just checking it out. So that's the goal with that one. Like I said, if you're interested, please go over there. If you're not, that's fine too. You know what I mean? Like, you can just hang out here. It's cool with me. Such a ditto again. True, but the fook in English are fooking them over. They always do that shit. Starmer wants his Churchill moment. Pathetic. Starmer's such a queef. I've been watching a lot of Carl Benjamin. And Count Dankula chimed in on this one. But all about the politics in the British government right now. And that guy, Nigel Farage, getting raked. Pretty embarrassing look on that guy. And I don't know much about British politics, so I wouldn't even begin to weigh in. But I've been interested in what I've been watching. I found it very compelling, very interesting. What's up, Zach? It's good to see you, bruh. Good to see you. Oh, you subbed? Awesome, dude. I hope you like the content. I think you will. I think this first video is a pretty good one. I think I was pretty thorough and dug into like the reasons. I think it's it's still baffling to me. I'm still baffled by it. Out in the wild, in the real world, and what's your favorite show? Oh, The Expanse. And they're like, what is that? And then, I launch into the pitch, but it's still relatively anonymous. And I know that science fiction is niche, but Battlestar Galactica was a huge show, and everyone likes Star Wars. It's like not that niche. And I know The Expanse is not as accessible as those shows, but still, it's just so taut and well written. So that's what I get into. And I hope you find it interesting. But like I said, only sub and watch if you really are interested. No pity sub, no pity watches, please, because it's just gonna hurt the algorithm. And I'd rather just grind it out with people who actually want to go there. As much as I appreciate the gesture, because I've done it too, it actually can hurt the channel. So, Godspeed, folks. Farange is containment. He's there to defang the right. That's interesting. That kind of is what it sounds like. At least that's what Carl Benjamin was saying, is that the Reform Party, I guess, started, and that's when Farange, I guess they kind of hit some pretty big peaks for their party, and then that's when Farange got in. He was not the reason why the Reform Party was doing particularly well. It's kind of the opposite. Yeah, like I said, I don't know. I'm learning about all this right now via Carl Benjamin for the most part, but I did find it really interesting. It was fun. It's so catty too. He seems like such a little bitch. He just goes and rats people said that he was bullying, and they just leak the story to get rid of some guy that might threaten his power. What a queef, dude. Yikes. I could never imagine following a man who behaved like that, like a chick, like a high school chick, trying to get rid of the other head cheerleader. Gross. Very gross. Alrighty, let's do some news. D. Okay, so there's a lot. The big story I want to talk about is Canada and America's tariffs, because I've been getting into that whole thing, but I don't want to go there just yet. All right, where do we start here? All right, let's start with this one. This I thought was super interesting, because it was going around on X yesterday and today, and it was this guy who I'm unfamiliar with. Cedars? S-E-D-E-R? Is this guy's name? He's this, I guess he's got a kind of a left-leaning podcast, and he's a liberal, either, I think he's an actor or producer or something like that. And he had a bunch of people on his show, and that the way they kind of do that rapid fire debate thing. And I thought it was so interesting because the way this guy was arguing, he was arguing in the way that would have worked in the past. These would have been kind of gotchas or sort of landmines to trip up people. They're not really arguments. They're just more kind of accusations. They're not even whataboutisms, just sort of actual, yes, that's it, Zach. Thank you, Sam Cedar. But they're the types of things that derail a lot of arguments, because now instead of arguing what you're arguing against the accusation. And that it's so hard to make to push past that. And that's why those accusations worked for so long. And I just thought this whole thing was so fascinating. Real quick, though, essentially, Farage is one of the main guys behind Brexit. And when they won that vote, he basically just left. He's a snake. Oh, yeah, fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. So you know who this guy is? This is the first I've heard of this queef ball. I don't know who he is. And he does seem like a queef. And I don't really care about the argument or anything. I just thought it was just so interesting how things have changed. And I wanted to show that.
That's better for Americans in general.
To be xenophobic,
yes.
Nationalism is better.
We should have a coherent culture. Everyone should be a part of the same culture. We should have assimilation.
Which, do you get to choose what the culture is?
We already have a dominant culture.
What is
based
the dominant
on
culture?
European and Christian values and identity. That is the dominant culture.
White Christian.
It's rooted.
So, in past times, right, getting her to say that would have been the gotcha moment. When she said that, in the past, it would have been, okay, debate over, you're a racist, you're a white nationalist, and there is no reason to debate you any further, right? That would be, all we needed was to get you saying that clip separate from anything else, and now the debate is over, and then because the dominant, dominant party, if you will, the dominant narrative was all the leftist and the left-leaning, and then they would have run with it, and they would have defamed and probably, doxed this chick, and, there would have been no discussion at all. But that's just not the time we live in anymore. She steamrolls right through it, and she's like, that is the culture. That is the dominant culture in this country. And it's just so yeah, she's not wrong at all. And it's like we're like allowed to publicly acknowledge that again. And it's like, damn, it's crazy how things have changed from just, I don't want to say even last year, but a few years ago, this wouldn't exist without like X. Or it would only be clips of her out of context with some lefty, trashing her. I find this fascinating.
And in European identity.
White, so your argument is
that has been the dominant culture.
Just to be
and
clear.
we're not letting people assimilate to that. We're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture's so divided.
Your argument is that Trump is good for those who want it.
Such a good point, what she just said there. She's right. Like, in the past, like, we as like white Americans, like, European cultures are extraordinarily different, the difference is that like when like Europeans from distinct different nations moved to the United States, they did eventually assimilate to the dominant culture. Like I got an uncle of mine growing up through marriage, but he was Italian. And he always told stories about his grandmother who came from Italy. And she was a super proud woman and very proud to be moving to the United States. And spoke the worst English, but would not speak Italian at all because she was just so proud of moving to America, and the assimilation was such a big part of the culture back then. It was a point of pride to assimilate to American culture. Now, or at least recently in recent history, it's sort of like, oh, it's shameful, it's embarrassing because the culture is bad, right? So you should keep your strong culture when you come here, and then what ends up happening is you do have these pockets of people who don't assimilate. I talked about it a few weeks ago with like the percentage of Hispanic Americans in this country who don't speak a fucking word of English. I am surrounded by them now. This apartment complex has been the entire demographics have changed, and it's like almost all non-English speaking Hispanics. Now, clearly they're all moving from other countries, but none of them speak English. And it's like, no one's tried, not even like the kids of your family like have learned English. And it's like there's just such a less impulse and sort of pressure and pride to assimilate. She's 100% right on that point. And the thing about debating with a guy like this is that there is no discussion for it, right? Like there's no room. He won't leave room to like address those individual things. It's like the fact that you think, and this guy's white, fucking pussy, but the fact that you even think that is a point of that just needs to be attacked. It doesn't need to be addressed or dealt with as an argument or a conversation. It just needs to be attacked. And that is what I find so fascinating in this, like this just different dynamic. It's like, it doesn't work any longer. You can't just call someone a white nationalist and then argument over. That's not how it goes. Hello, Janet Banana. What's up? Good to see you. Hello, hello, hello.
A dominant white European culture.
I mean, that is what
is that Trump.
That we're saying you should keep your culture, and this is why our culture's so divided.
Your argument is that Trump is good for those who want a dominant white European culture.
I don't think she even said that, but I didn't see the whole interview. I'm just looking at this clip or whatever. But you see like the attack in his eyes. Like, how dare you? How dare you want to maintain the culture of the established majority? What a piece of shit you are. Like, he's just like, look at his eyes. It's like he's never heard of anything so appalling in all his life. And it's just like, could you imagine going to fucking, I don't know. I was just going to say any country in Europe, but then I just realized they are way more cucked than we are. Go to the Baltics. Go to Croatia. Go to Sentient Dildo's fucking Balkans, I mean, culture, and then accuse them. Be like, how dare you want to maintain a major white Croatian culture? I don't think that would hold much water. But it's just so audacious. I mean, it's like you would never do that with a different race. You would never go to like Bolivia and be like, and you want to maintain a dominant Hispanic culture here? Like, it's just so fucking condescending. It's such just liberal, midwit fucking, what's that term that they use? like the room temperature IQ shit. I mean, it's all just, ugh.
I mean, that is what America is. It's rooted in European identity and Christian values. That's what it has been. Would you really disagree with that? What is it then, if that's not the identity?
I like how she puts that on him. That was cool. That was fucking badass. She's like, so you actually say what it is then. You define it. You're so fucking sharp and smart. You do it. I like that.
Of America.
Well, I think the identity of
For the
America...
majority of time, America's been a country. You don't think that's been the identity?
Well, actually, no. I think actually the identity of America has been, for better or for worse, a melting pot in that regard.
Yeah, maybe since the 1960s. Even then, even we had this idea of a melting pot literally means assimilation too. It means...
Boom. Uh-oh. You tripped on your dick there, didn't you, sir? Oops. Oh, no. Oh, the rhetoric just ran into each other, didn't it? It's a melting pot and keep your own cultures. Well, that's a contradiction. And she nailed you on that one. So she's like, the new cultures should assimilate. That's what you're saying, correct? Brilliant.
Melting. It means you're assimilating to the dominant culture. Is that not what melting means?
No, it doesn't
and
mean
now
to
instead we're saying there's something wrong with xenophobia.
Dominant culture. No.
Well, okay, I see what you're saying here, Essential Dildo. You're saying debates are cringe and gay and serve no purpose but to entertain your own team and reinforce their thinking. Ain't nobody changing their minds. Fine, whatever. That's your perspective. That's fair. I don't generally consume debates. What I'm fascinated with why I'm fascinated with this particular debate is simply because these arguments were verboten just a few short years ago. Forget it. This would be news. She'd be, this white nationalist, extreme right, MAGA Republican Nazi was saying that, the dominant culture in America is a white Christian one, or, with European influences. Now that is just not, it doesn't work. That well has run completely dry. This guy doesn't know that, because I'm sure this tool just hangs out with his echo chamber, doesn't challenge his ideas. They all just agree, and some fucking probably really domineering leftist chick who's just always on some new cause, you know what I mean, where he's emasculated in their relationship. I'm sure. I've known people just like this, for years in New York and LA, and here in Austin. But it's just the fact that it doesn't matter. It's that's not a gotcha anymore. That doesn't win. It's not like a spiked over the net moment. That is all in the past.
I mean, look, I got to be honest with you. You and I have a fundamental disagreement. We will never see eye to eye on this. It's a choice. And I think what you're expressing, though...
And that might be true, bud. You might never see eye to eye, but you're not acknowledging her point, which is the accurate point. You didn't even assert anything else. You just said that it's a melting pot. And it's just okay, well, for the majority of the time, it was a melting pot of European nations for the most part. You know what I mean? Which is whatever. I'm not a racist, but I do respect my culture. And I think that people who move here should also respect the culture and assimilate into it. And that's not an offensive stance. That's not a cruel, exclusive stance. There's no country more open to immigration in the world than the United States of America. In the world. So it's why, if we're that, generous, why do we also have to sacrifice our identity and our culture? Why do we need to slink, and the side when this culture is so prosperous, it is so, free and open that it allows people to come here. And it is desirable for people to come here. And it's that's great, learn the fucking language when you get here. That's all. Or just try. You know what I mean? I shouldn't have to go into a business where the people in that business don't speak the language of the land. It's very disrespectful. I just could never imagine moving to another nation and not even trying to learn the native language and just expect everyone to adapt to me. It's so fucking arrogant.
Is really what the Trump movement at its heart is about. And I think that's problematic.
I disagree. I don't think Trump's anywhere close to being a Christian nationalist. That's ridiculous. Trump's basically a Democrat from 15 years ago when it comes to social issues.
So you don't think that he's conservative enough for you?
Oh, definitely. Nowhere close. No.
He's not xenophobic enough for you?
No, he's trying to import a bunch of...
Do you see that? You see how he tries to get her? We don't need it. There's not really much else here, but I just thought to me, it's just such a strong indication of the times and the fact that things have changed dramatically and that it sure as fuck is not 2016 anymore. You know, in 2016, if that debate existed, that girl would be everywhere on the internet. She'd be doxxed. She'd be hated. The news would be dragging her through the mud. Now it's just like, yeah, that guy looks like a douchebag, and she's right. Look, you know, I understand there's like controversy with Trump and all this type of stuff, and people kind of, you know, accuse him of being a charlatan, and they accuse Elon of lying, and that's all fine and good. But things are different now, you know, and whether that's because of Elon buying Twitter or Trump winning the election or an amalgam of a bunch of different factors, that is a marked difference from where things used to be. And I'm just happy to see it, honestly. You know, it's like your whole life here in America, you get this sort of like guilt trip education. And you're supposed to feel bad, you know, about the fact of, I don't know, whatever, being an American, especially being a straight white Christian American. That's very bad. You're the devil, you know, even though it's like those are the guys who, you know, built the country and fought the wars to protect it. But whatever. It's just so nice to see. I love it. That's sick. That's cool. And I agree with you. I think debates are gay for the most part. I don't really watch them. Though, there's some good ones. Dave Smith debating Cuomo over his COVID policies. Ooh, that was some sweet stuff right there. That was great. Basically because, to your point, actually, that it's like you're entertaining your own team. But in this instance, it was literally like one of the arms of the COVID propaganda was up there debating a guy who was 100% not part of the COVID propaganda, who could see through it and can really, really debate and argue. That was awesome. And that was vindicating for a lot of people who, you know, maybe if they had the opportunity to debate Cuomo, probably wouldn't be as nimble and precise, but Dave is very good at that. So sometimes it can be useful. I mean, if you watch the Cuomo Dave Smith debate and you walked away thinking like, and you didn't walk away thinking that completely exposed Cuomo, you know, I think I'd have to think that you're ideologically captured, because I don't even imagine another interpretation. So it can serve purposes. I think some of them are good. You know, I know what you mean, but I think some, I don't know. I think there is value in them sometimes. Deep State needed to be put away. Deep State needed to put away the woke once they started attacking Israel. Can't have that. Oh, I see what you're saying. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it backfired. Like there was that guy from, what's the name of that, ADL, right? And when all the kind of pro-Palestine protests like erupted, he was confused. He was just like, wait, because, you know, he saw himself as like, hold on, we've been training you in who to hate correctly. Why don't you defend us? And it's like, because they see you as white. Because compared to the Palestinians, you're white and they're brown. And that is the dynamic that you created for them. And so, yeah, maybe you're right. I don't know. It's an interesting one that whole thing has kind of been bubbling under the surface. I feel like we haven't heard much about it recently. You know, I was looking into this whole Massie and Trump feud, which has been going around on X today. So Thomas Massie, like the congressman, who's like a very principled, like based Kentucky Republican, who's like a libertarian leaning and like small government spending and doesn't take AIPAC money and all this stuff. Very principled dude. And kind of like just in his very actions makes sort of protests, you know, makes loud statements. And I was looking into the budget that they're CR, which is like the sort of, I forget what that's called, but it's just basically like it's like almost like an emergency budget that they're passing to extend past the government shutdown time, which is supposed to be at the end of this week. So they're kind of pushing this through. And Massie was like, nah, not into it, not into this budget. And he's the only congressional Republican who voted no against it. And I looked into it, and the thing is, like, this budget, it didn't have any new provisions for Israel or Ukraine. There was like some 10-year budget or something that we funded Israel back in like 2016 or something like that, and it continues to extend that. But there was nothing else there. It's interesting. I haven't heard the Israel stuff in a while, but I hesitate to say this because I'm not that informed on it. But in a way, to me, I look at that situation and I'm like, I think that's kind of one that the libs got right. I look at that and I look at the kind of like devastation of Gaza. Like when you see the photos of the cities like just gone, you're like, that looks like something you'd see after World War II, right? Like when you see those German cities that are just not there anymore. Like, that's what that looked like to me. Like, I know it's complicated. I know it's gray. And I know there's a lot of propaganda going around. Like I saw online, there was like this whole claim that the Israeli hostages were coming back and just like praising, the heaven and earth of how good the Hamas treated them. And then you look into it, and that was all bullshit. It was like not true at all. And it's like you look into like, oh, you can go find what the real guy's statement was. And he didn't say that. He wasn't just like, they're so nice and they're so good. It's like, that's fucking propaganda. So it's like, if you're the good guy, I don't know why you need to lie. I don't know why you need to spread propaganda. If you're the good guy, just spread the truth, So it is gray. I'm sure of that. But I don't think Israel's just like, yeah, go ahead, wipe out the Palestinians. Go for it. That's cool. That's a fine thing to do, and start new invasions. And I don't know. It's pretty wild. Like from what I see, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how you could just be black and white. Like, yeah, no matter what Israel does, good call. They're crushing it. Most people are conformists. You always have 10 to 20% of people thinking for themselves, and the rest will just parrot what the power wants them to parrot. Yeah, I mean that's true to a degree. Yeah. But I do think things are different now. I do think you don't have the same restrictions and constraints on speech any longer. It's just not the same, I mean, I guess if you wanted to criticize Israel, you might get deported. But other than that one issue, no big deal. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think that's how it's going, but it's, it was bordering on that. But things are different. I just feel like the constraints in speech, just living here now, I just feel like it's different. Like it used to be serving the deep state, and now I feel like the deep state is like laying in the cut and planning their next moves. I don't know what they're up to, but it's not the same as it was, It's just not. Don't worry, they'll sneak that shit in when you're not looking. Well, we're all looking though. That's the thing. We're all looking, such a dildo. Like, I don't know. I don't think you spend any time on Twitter, man, but I've never seen this level of scrutiny over a government ever in my entire life. And now with tools like Grok, and you can investigate this information, like, there's this whole paper that I was reading about the tariffs with Trump's sort of tariff plan. It's long. You know what I mean? I read about half of it, and I was like, Jesus. I was like, oh, yeah, let me just copy and paste the rest of this into Grok, ask it to give me the bullet points. And it did, and it was helpful, and I was able to digest the information. But I have so much more like tools at my disposal to understand this thing. Like I was able to with the budget, with the Massie and Shrewd feud on the budget, I was able to look into exactly, like I said, I was able to just specifically, are we funding more Israel? Are we funding more Ukraine? Like I would have had to have read the bill before or trusted a news outlet. I don't have to do that anymore. Now it's just like I can get so much more information. Like it's so much harder to be deceptive now. Like the level of scrutiny is unmatched. Like the past 2 administrations, I didn't know who all the cabinet picks were. I didn't know every little intricate detail of like who was, Trump was picking and what department. But now it's like, and you're keeping up with it like a sports team, right? What's the score? Who nominated who and like who voted for who? Like this is just an unprecedented level of transparency and scrutiny that I've never seen in my entire adult life, and I don't think has ever happened. So you might be right in kind of a cynical point of view, but I good luck. I wouldn't want to be the guy to try to do it. Got to give it up to Iran, though. They played this whole thing perfectly. I don't know much about that. What Trump says that, Iran was broke and Biden let him get money again. I don't know how true that is. I've never looked at any of it. Didn't they introduce anti-Semitic speech laws into some states? Not really. It was, from what I saw was the, basically like it was college campus related and stuff like that. It was like you couldn't do like, I forgot, but it really wasn't that draconian. It sounded bad, but like when you looked into it, it was like pretty mild stuff. It was just more like kind of, because there was a lot of violence on these campuses, like when the whole thing first kind of popped off. So it's like, you do have to be able to protect people, but I don't know. I'd have to look into that one more to give you a clearer answer. But you know what? You can go look into it yourself because the access to information now is unprecedented. We have never lived in a time like this. I swear to God, I don't really use Google anymore. I just use Grok. Like, for information, wasting my time with Google. Fuck that. I have to go through a bunch of articles. Grok can, like, summarize so much information and give you bullet points and pulls from so many different sources. And you could ask it to be simple or complex or expand on it. It's an unbelievably powerful tool. I freaking love it. Freaking love it. Okay, so the whole Massie and Trump feud. So I looked into this because I was a little curious because Massie is one of those guys that is very principled and is a really solid guy. And I've really been liking what Trump's been doing thus far, and I didn't see why they don't see eye to eye on this. Now, apparently, Trump and Massie have done this before. They've kind of gone back and forth at each other, although Massie isn't really taking any shots at Trump. He's just like, no, you could just see that I'm being the same kind of guy I've always been. But Trump's being like, I'll de-primary you. And it all has to do with getting this budget extension. And I guess Massie's point is that there's supposed to be, I forgot what exactly it pertains to, but like a 1% reduction in the overall budget. And because this isn't a technical budget, it's just an extension, they're sort of getting around that. And I think from Trump's perspective, if they don't get this through, there will be like a government shutdown. And he doesn't want that. I don't know if it's for vanity, like he doesn't want it because like he doesn't want to look bad, or he doesn't want it because it'll slow down like the Trump agenda. And I thought it was pretty interesting. It is a reduced budget from the last one. Like I think it's like a net less spending like of like $7 billion or something like that, which I thought was actually, that's great. But it doesn't include all the Doge cuts, which is one of Massie's sticking points. He's like, it's great that we found all this, like federal waste and stuff. Let's include that in the new budget. And I think that that's actually a really good point. And I was trying to figure out with Grok, I was like, wait, so if these departments are cut or those contracts are cut, like what happens to the funding? You know what I mean? Like, so if it's still funded, but those programs are cut, does it, like what happens to that money? Like I'm confused because if the money's still earmarked, but the department doesn't even exist or exists at 90% its capacity, do you just like give the money back? I was confused by a lot of that. So I think they both kind of have points. I understand like Massie's point with the actual budget. Like I get why he's like doing that. And then I understand Trump's point, which is like, we just need to keep going because we're you're gonna get tired of winning, and it's like, boy, I am. But I think he just wants to steamroll through and just keep doing what he's doing because, a lot of it's been extraordinarily effective. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in my life. First 2 months of a president, not even 2 months. And he's, shut down the southern border, is waging trade wars with Canada. Just all this stuff that it's like he's got rid of DEI, got Doge, like digging through like a truffle pig, trying to get corruption out of the federal government. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I'm all on board. So I kind of see it from both perspectives. Personally, I would probably, I don't know, it's tough because Massie understands the way that the kind of Republicans, the establishment Republicans operate. Trump just wants to keep going. This early on, I would probably, I don't know, because the thing was, like Massie was saying, like what happens is if you push this off, the closer we get to a primary, the more spineless these Republicans are going to get, and they're not going to be as aggressive with slashing the budget. We should do it now, get that done now while we still have like the majority and there's no kind of like election looming. So I see both perspectives. I really don't know which is the correct one. It's a tough one. For me, like, I don't know, because I don't know. I really don't. I'm very torn because both arguments are super compelling, and I really don't know which one is the correct one to do. It gets put in black funds, I imagine, lol. Yeah. Yeah, that's I feel like that's how it always would have been. But like I said, I've never seen such scrutiny and transparency in administration in my entire life. I don't know. There were campus attacks caused by speech. We got to protect people, Matt Fowler. No, there were actual violence. It wasn't, it was like they were attacking kids for being Jewish. You know what I mean? You can't do that. But I guess but that was weird too, because it was like, yeah, they'd been doing that to white kids for a really long time. You know what I mean? Like you guys just suddenly, it's a big issue. It's weird. It's a weird one to suddenly jump on. Okay. So yeah, that's that whole issue. And I was just curious because it's like, I see two guys that I think are like doing a really good job in government going at it. And I don't like it. And I'm like, guys, come on, stop. We have a common enemy, which is like the deep state, the establishment, the libs. So let's unite. Let's unite against them, please. You know what I mean? I don't know. There are already laws against attacking people, but not Jewish exceptional laws. Okay. No, you're right. I don't know what that's all about. I can't defend it because I don't know. I didn't really look into it. So you might be right. You might be very right. There is a whole weird thing with our government that just gives very special treatment to a foreign nation that I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't. And from the conservatives too. It's just like, okay, but this whole America First thing, which you guys have been proudly touting as the most important platform, which, hey, I agree with you on. But, unless it's Israel, then it's Israel first and then America next. You're like, why is that? That is weird. That is very odd to make that priority. I don't know. Okay. Where do we go? I do want to get into the next thing, but it's also going to be very exhausting for me because it's going to be a lot of talking about kind of dry stuff. Exactly, Sentient Dildo. So I will pivot for a moment. I watched, and I'm not like I love science fiction. I'm a big fan of the genre, as you guys might know. But I what's it called? I watched Dune 2 over the weekend. Hi, kitty. I watched Dune 2 over the weekend. And I wasn't in love with the first Dune movie, and I wasn't excited to watch the second one, but I eventually got around to it and I watched it, and it was pretty good. Oh, this cat is mewing. Hold on. All right. That's actually Michael's cat, Lula. He said he's gonna come back and get her. I don't know. I think he's a liar. I'm just kidding. Where was I? So Dune. Okay, yeah. So I watched it, and I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't love it, but I thought it was cool. But I did have this kind of thought. Said, Dune 2 is definitely better than 1. It's still just okay, in my opinion. That's how I felt. There were things that happened in the movie where I was just like, huh? Like, they have this big moment right in the middle where they're like, hey, you got to cross that desert. That's one of the big tests to being a Fremen. You cross that desert, it's hard. You got to look out for the Jinn. You gotta blah, blah. And it's like, okay, go get it, Tiger. And he's like, all right. And he goes, and then he sees what he thinks is a Jinn. Oh, and it's the girl. It's Ronnie or whatever her name is. Katani, Johnny, Gianni, I forget her name. Zendaya. And then she helps him. And then that's it. Then the next scene is combat with this giant tank. And I was like, wait, what? That's it? The journey is over? There was like one scene of her helping him, and then that was the end of that. I was like, you built it up like it was going to be like the next 15 minutes of this movie. Like it was going to be like brutal, and he'd have to outrun sandworms, and it was like this whole, it's like, no, she helped him, and that was that. I was like, did you really need that grand speech from Javier Bardem? And like, you stay out there, and da-da-da, blah, 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 blah. Like, why would you have such a dramatic buildup before that? I was like, I was confused because like when the attack with the tank starts and they all pop out of the sand and they're pew pew and they're shooting at like those flying insect things, which actually are pretty cool. And that like machine gun thing that they have that like shoots like a whole scatter of like machine gun bullets. That was actually pretty sick. I was like, well, that can't be, Atreides, because he's off on his little journey. So who is this? And you're like, oh, it's Atreides. I'm like, it is? Okay, what happened? His sand journey's over? Okay, all right. That was weird. And then, like, another thing that that I didn't like was that in the first movie, the Harkonnens are, like, they're like a cloud of death. Everything they touch just wiped out, destroyed, like a poison cloud. No one had a chance. I don't think they win a single battle in this second movie. They're like a joke. It's like the moment you see them, they're clumsy. They have like these big clumsy things, and they're like, oh, I got my sword. Oh, I missed. I was like, that's not very intimidating. And then they just got smoked. Like the tank battle was like the most dramatic one when they almost didn't blow up the thing, but they did though, and they were the least threatening bad guys I've seen in a movie in a long time. Like Batista was a joke. He just just yelling, accomplishing nothing, didn't win a single battle. Paul Atreides just has dub after dub after dub. I was just like, okay. Good, visually interesting. I liked what's that guy's name? Butler, the guy who played Elvis. I liked him as the more serious bad guy. I thought he was good. He was cool. He's intimidating. He's actually scary. He didn't win a battle either, though. I thought when he got there, he was going to turn the tide of the battle and actually start, being intimidating. But no. He's just there for the final fight, which was good and everything. But, at that point, I had no illusions of how this was going to go. Obviously, Atreides is going to win this knife battle. It's a cool knife battle. Yeah, but I was just like, that's how that's obviously going to go. So, I don't know. And then there's some retarded editing choices in it, too. Yeah, there's definitely one with, like, in the beginning when they're in the desert. And that clunky army, comes and finds them. And then he how did it go? He's fighting the guy. He sneaks up on the guy, grabs his sword and kills the guy. And then up on the ridge, way out there on the ridge, a sniper just kind of pops up. And then somehow in that time, his mother managed to sneak all the way around that ridge and crash the guy in the head with a rock. And you're like, when the fuck did she do that? How is that even possible? Total Deus Ex Machina. Like, absolutely no explanation for that. Just that it happened off screen. You're like, that's lazy as hell. That's really lazy. And then, and maybe you know this, Sentient Dildo. I don't know if you've read the book. But I just have an issue with the entire world building. And I'm sorry, Frank Herbert, R.I.P. So the whole thing hinges on this fact that you need the spice. right? You need this spice to navigate. The navigators, they eat the spice, and then you have like kind of these premonitions. You could see things that happen before they happen. Kind of, you can imagine them happening. It's amazing ability it gives you, and that's the only way that you can navigate like faster than light travel. Okay, I respect that. Additionally, in this world, there was a war, the Butlerian Jihad, where they had a war against all the AI thinking machines, because it was almost wiped out humanity, and it was like this big, big deal, right? And so that's why you need to have the spice navigators. The navigators have the spice, and then you don't have to worry about the machines. You just have these navigators. It's like, okay, that's all fine and good. However, you have the navigators and the emperor, I guess of the Imperium or whatever, are kind of dicks that people don't really like. Like, they're very oppressive, right? It's a very kind of corrupt system. And the Imperium spreads out over millions of years. And in this universe, there's pirates. There's people who go outside the guild regulations and stuff like that. So you're telling me in the 10,000 years after the Butlerian Jihad, no rival house, rival faction, pirates, none of them could come up with a computer that could navigate where you wouldn't need spice, and that would undercut the entire market and the entire power of what the spice, like the whole spice production, the leverage that has. No one. Like, I don't believe that at all. Like, for several reasons. Like, one, we can't agree on this one planet to outlaw anything. There's nothing we all universally agree on that is bad, right? You could, even point to like chemical weapons, right? Like the chemical weapons used in World War I were horrific, right? Chlorine gas, like when fired, what happens with that is you inhale it, and in all your mucous membranes, anything that's wet, it turns into hydrochloric acid. It's a horrifying, it's just despicable. It's far preferable to blow people up than to have that happen. So we agree. No chemical weapons. Except we don't all agree. There's nations that have chemical weapons now. I'm sure that we have chemical weapons we don't know about. So you're telling me that across millions of systems, that is still held as a we don't break that kind of a rule? And additionally, it's part of a religion, the Orange Catholic Bible. What the fuck? They all share the same religion? Really? Devoutly? Thou shalt not make a thinking computer or whatever? And they all agree. That's amazing. We had the Son of God come to Earth, and people still don't agree on that. You know what I mean? Like, even in that own belief system, there's different interpretations of how to worship, how to look at it. There's people from the old world who never let go of the older beliefs. That's still a thing too. And then in the meantime, new religions that said he wasn't the Messiah have come up. And then there's other parts of the world who are just like, whatever you're doing, we're still worshiping our ancestors. Like the idea that religion would be so widespread that it would hit all these millions of systems and everyone would just maintain the commandments. Meanwhile, maintaining those commandments means you're at an extreme disadvantage to the emperor and the Spice Guild and the Spice Navigator. Now let's assume that the Butlerian Jihad was so bad. It was so bad. How bad was it? It was so bad, it almost wiped out humanity. Let's just say it was so bad. Okay, fine. I would believe that in a span of 100 years, a few hundred years, maybe. But could you imagine something was sacred to Neolithic people that like cavemen, like when mammoths were still around, and we hold that sacred today in a way that if you violate it, we will start a fucking war with you. That is too much for me to accept. That world building does not make any sense. Like, I would almost prefer it if Herbert was just like, no, computers, like, they're too inefficient. We were never able to make a computer that could actually navigate this speed, and the only way you can do it is spice. I would respect that better. But it'd just be like, no, we all just agree. It's like, really? What? Like, your whole story is kind of like, there's like analogies here to the real world. You know, a desert planet, a very valuable resource, like Muslim sort of heritage. It's like the allegory is kind of thin, you know. It's like, not that it's bad or anything. It's an extraordinarily well realized world, but that doesn't make any fucking sense, you know. In 10,000 years, not one rebel planet, not one dissenting faction committed all their resources to recreating a computer that could think and fly without the spice navigators. I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying it. Maybe I'm being nitpicky, but I feel like the whole world hinges on that reality, because it's like, he who controls the spice controls the universe, or whatever the line is. And it's just like, well, what if we don't give a fuck about the spice? What if we just go back to computers? They did, listless? We talking Dune, indeed. Which Dune book was this? Because I did some pretty thorough research on this point. I'm not saying you're wrong, because I don't know it all that well. Is that IXIANS? Oh, the No Ships. Yeah. Right. But that was like years down the road. Right? Wasn't that under the God Emperor? Or wasn't that even after the God Emperor? In the Scattering or something like that? Like later in the books? Like book fucking 7 or something? Is it throughout them? Okay. I found no evidence of that, but you know what? You might be right, because I haven't read them. I just was like dredging forums and using Grok and going through all this stuff, and I'm just like, that doesn't make any goddamn sense. Before that, though, they were always doing stuff secretly to push the limits. Okay, good. Because that is a gaping hole in your world building if that's not addressed, you know? And not a great analogy. Nothing on Earth came close to the Butlerian Jihad. But so what? What if there was some massive genocidal war 10,000 years ago? You still think we would, like... We'd be like, no, we still have the exact same values. We will not break that. It's, dude, like... We had the worst world war, and then we had the next one not even 20 years later. I don't think that's how humans behave. You know what I mean? Even if it is an existential outside threat, it's like, nah, I just can't. Look, I could see us doing it for a while. I could see people like not, you know, like them not honoring, or them honoring the thing for, I would go up to even being 1,000 years. After 1,000 years, though, you're basically like taking everyone's word for it, right? It's like myth at this point. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to pick up William Wallace's fight against the English. You know what I mean? It's like those beefs aren't even beefs anymore. Like, I understand what you're saying, but for 10,000 years, no society ever was like, fuck this spice bullshit. Let's get AI back. Okay. Let me see here. Dune Messiah, the Zixians wanted a constitution, and Paul told them to fuck off. Okay. I mean, that's fair, but is that the same? I'm not saying there weren't rebels. I'm saying there were rebels, and there were, like, people who disagreed. But I don't know if they, like, used the AI to, like, navigate their ships. You know, I just feel like someone would have changed that. You know what I mean? I don't know. There were a few places, the Ixians, I don't know what this is, and the richess to a certain degree. Okay, maybe my research was poor. Maybe I was not thorough enough. But I was like, that was interesting. And then I watched like a few like, you know, explained videos about how the fact of like the prophecy may or may not be real. Like it is planted propaganda, but then maybe it's also true. And it's like this whole thing. And, you know, but it's like, is that good or is that bad? Like it's an interesting philosophical discussion. I'm personally more partial to following the hero who's like the virtuous hero. You know, I'm not crazy about following a narrative of a guy who's like not really doing the right thing. Even though I get it, like it's kind of a grander point about like, well, what even is that? And how do you, I get that. But I mean, that's just kind of depressing. Like I like heroes who are heroes, you know, personally. I'm just saying, give me James Holden over Paul Atreides. That's all I'm saying. Can't remember which book it started, but the Tlaxu started to develop a synthetic spice. That's synthetic spice is fine, but that's still not doing an AI, right? It's still not doing like a nav computer that I feel like one culture would have done it. Even if they were anti-humanist, let's call them a transhumanist race on some backwater planet that the Emperor can't really like investigate, you know, or maybe they worship the old gods or something. I just still don't buy it. That's what happens when you trust Grok, Matt. Outsourcing your thinking to a machine. What could go wrong? The irony. Yeah, he's just like, dude, there's no reason to not trust AI. This book is crazy. How ridiculous is that? That's so funny. Well, I just went on this whole thing, Lissa, just about how it didn't make any sense to me that like over the millions of years, tens of thousands of years in this world, no culture would have developed a spacefaring AI. And it's like, because it was like, it's blasphemous. I'm like, okay, that doesn't even hold true on Earth. You know, it's like, it's illegal. It's like, oh, that also doesn't hold true on Earth, you know, chemical weapons. And it's like, you know, it was a really bad thing. It's like, it happened 10,000 years ago. There's not a single thing that happened 10,000 years ago that I would hold sacred in my life today. You know what I mean? And even if I did, you know, it's such a stretch for me to believe that everyone else would hold it in their heart just as deeply. It's like, I don't think so. I don't buy it. But it's like, I think it's interesting world building too. You know, I've never read the books. I've just done Google, Grok, YouTube video research. I think the world building is really interesting. You know, I think it's vivid. It's really vivid. I just think he could have tweaked that. I think he could have just been like, no, it's impossible. They're like, AI can't do it. And be like, all right, I buy that, you know, in your world, versus like, because I can't argue with that. You set the laws of the world. But I can argue with the fact that, like, this is supposed to be about human nature. It's like, well, human nature is, like, inherently defiant. I mean, you just look at black markets, right? Like, drugs are illegal. Yeah? Well, they make trillions of dollars. You know what I mean? We don't really give a shit, you know? It's like, even in places where it is, like, vicious and draconian. Like, what's it, like the Philippines, where they, like, execute drug dealers? They're still fine drug dealers to execute. So I just don't believe, I don't believe that there's any way the Imperium could ever enforce an anti-AI law on millions of systems, or that there would be this sort of cultural feeling to just not do it because it's blasphemous. Not buying it. Don't worry, Matt. I'm sure they'll cover religion in some backwater planet in book 257. But you know the whole story over all the books, all of it was meant to prevent another AI apocalypse, the Golden Path, the Jihad, all of it, no ships as well. Fine, but like I just don't buy that. Like, I know the Golden Path was, but that was like different. That wasn't something Paul was part of. You know, I'm just saying the way the society existed. Like, I understand that, like, the what are they called, the Bene Gesserit, but there's gonna be people, there's gonna be factions who don't go along with the program. They just won't. They're just gonna be like, no, I don't care. I'm selfish. And I don't like having the power. I don't like having this emperor have the power over me and this Navigators Guild having the power over me. I'm going to find a way out of this. And guess what? I'm going to go fucking get AI again. And I'm going to do it right this time. Sorry, I just, that world building frustrates me. But this is the type of stuff I'll be doing on the new channel. You know what I mean? Like, so that I can get into this fucking autistic nonsense and really flesh out all these concepts, because it's like, this shit kicks around my head. You know what I mean? And if I don't tell somebody, I'll torture my family or my whoever I'm dating or my friends. They'll be like, yeah, no, okay, good point. But I'm like, no, you don't see. You don't get it. It falls apart. We've never been through an AI apocalypse and lived. I don't know. Wasn't there like a genocide of like all the Neanderthals or something like that? Like, didn't Homo sapiens just kill all Neanderthals? Like, I guess we won that. But that was so long ago. Like, I can't connect with that. You know what I mean? Just like I can't connect with like, like wars that happened to people thousands of years ago. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, yeah, okay. Someone would not believe it. Like 10,000 years, you have to hold that true, like with devoutly, and everyone does, and no one disagrees. Even if the majority of the population is like, what the fuck are you doing fucking around with AI? Like, someone's still going to do it because you told them that they can't. You know what I mean? The world building exists, it does exist. I'm like using like logic, like human logic to apply it to the world building, right? That's inflexible. And I'm like, that's not buying it. The Butlerian jihad was so bad it changed how humans were gonna human. Basically, no, they weren't gonna. I don't buy it. I don't buy that there was anything that would ever happen that would last that long for 10,000 years. You know what I mean? Like, you could, like, World War I is like one of the worst thing that's ever happened. You could be like, we'll never have war again. It's just like, well, no, we do all the time, still, constantly. You know what I mean? Like, percentage wise, like, I don't know, like, the Cold War is like pretty close to an apocalyptic event, and we're poking the fucking Russian bear right now. I don't know. I'm saying that's not logical, I guess, is my argument. I disagree. I think it's not logical to believe that every single system and millions of planets, like, what about planets that like don't have great education? You know what I mean? Or just like they just look at like what? There was no sects that disagree with this religion, or like there was no like Satan worshipers, right? Who actually do worship the AI and think maybe humanity should have been wiped out. They don't exist. Like, come on, there's no way. There would be someone. There would be someone that would disagree. 10,000 years is a lot of time for people to think. They wouldn't all just hold it sacred. There's nothing the entire human race holds sacred universally without any disagreement. There's not one single thing. You can't even, you can't, I don't know, convince me otherwise. It doesn't matter. There's still people who would welcome it. There's still people who'd be like, good, we should be wiped out. We should all like give up to the AIs. Like, there's people who would do that. Like, what, they don't exist? There's no like Satan worshipers in this universe? So yes, there is a conceit in the books to believe them. That shit was really that horrible. I don't buy it. I'm not buying it. Even though I didn't read the book, I still don't buy it. Wait for book 257, yeah. Okay. Glad you're here, listless, because I was going to get into the whole Canadian thing. The Canadian trade war. So, I don't know how deep I'm going to get into this, because it's going to require a lot of kind of dense financial shit that I'm not even sure I understand. But, no, I just watched the movie. But then I was like, I investigated. I'm just like, so, like, in the whole universe, like, no one's ever come up with AI. You're like, it was really bad. It's like, I don't care how bad it was. No one would ever honor that for that long. There's nothing. I'll look into it, and I still can't imagine. Like, but wouldn't there be hubris? Like, what? There's no humans with hubris anymore who wouldn't be like, no, I'll get it right this time. I'll make sure the AI is actually good enough and won't attack humans. There's no humans who think like that. You know what I mean? Like, we gave up on hubris, and we're just what? It's a completely humble race across millions of planets. Really? No one's got hubris anymore. No one thinks they can play God for 10,000 years, over trillions of human beings, they're all devout? Bullshit. I don't buy that for a second. No way. Read them all and come back to me? I'm definitely not going to do that, listless. I'm going to be 40 in a few months, in a month. I've got limited time on this earth. I don't want to spend the next 5 years reading all the Dune books. I'm not going to, there's no way I'm going to do that. No, I'm sorry. I love you. It ain't happening. You can just be right then. If it, I don't know. I'm definitely not going to do that. Okay. Back to the Canadian stuff. So this whole trade war with Canada, I didn't really get. And I think in a way it's kind of backfired in Trump's face, right? I think because hey, what's up, man of war? How you doing? It was published half a century ago. Why on earth would Matt read that? That would be like watching something in black. Get the hell out of here. You do not understand. My film education is very rich. I go back to like silent films. I know that world very well. I watch plenty of black and white stuff, foreign stuff. I watch art films from like fucking Scandinavia. That is beyond the pale, sir. That is not fair. And I own the book. I just never really read it. I don't know. Like, I'm just not that compelled by the universe. It doesn't really appeal to me all that much, But I was just thinking about that, just dwelling on that. I'm like, no one decided to defy the Imperium. It's like, it was that bad. It was like, it's 10,000 years ago. I mean, that's a legend at this point. You know what I mean? That, like, what could you tell me that happened 10,000 years ago that would be so bad I'd believe you? I was like, okay, that's not going to impact my actions. I don't care if it was the worst thing that's ever happened. I mean, if the entire planet caught on fire, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that was then. I don't know. Like, there's no way. And I'm not particularly rebellious, I'm certainly not under the oppression of a grand empire. And if I defied them, I could then, liberate my people or gain power or gain more resources. But I'm just like, well, I mean, it was really bad for these people, so I will take all the oppression of the Navigators Guild and the Imperium. Okay, well, I'm not buying it. Not buying it. So with this kind of research, opinions, mass spewing on positive, your new channel will be a success. Eat shit. Eat shit, such a dildo. This is extremely well researched. I just didn't read the books. I'm telling you, I was looking this up for hours. Absolutely not. No. I demand a protection. Hello, Paulie. It's good to see you, pal. Good to see you. For the love of God, read the fucking books. No, they're long. There's lots of them. I don't even like the world that much. I'm not going to spend all this time just to become like, hey, see, I told you I was right. Remember that argument from 4 years ago when I started this endeavor to read this stack of books? No, thanks. No. I'm good. Moving on to Canada. Canada, people! There's a trade war going on. I don't know if you know this. But not really. Actually, there was like... So it started off with like Trump was like... doing the tariffs, and Canada's like, get the fuck out of here, dude. We will fight you. We will fight you. We're going to jack up electricity. We're going to do all this stuff. We're taking your whiskey off the shelves. We are fighting hard. And Trump's like, all right, sick. I'm putting a giant tariff on aluminum. They're like, never mind. Everything we said, we take it all back. Sorry. Our bad. Sorry. Ontario has dropped their 25% charge on electricity being delivered to multiple U.S. states. Dropped it that quick. Dropped it like a bad habit. Because they don't really have any economic leverage. Now, I was curious about all of this because I was kind of like, look, I get it and everything. I understand these reciprocal tariffs and I understand like Trump's point of view, but I'm like, you're going really hard on Canada? Like, are we that significant of a trading partner with them that this is going to impact us one way or the other? Like, is it that big of a deal? Also, I think in a little bit it kind of backfired, not necessarily with the actual economic goals, but I think it unified the country to elect someone even more liberal or as liberal as Trudeau. So in a way, I feel like that actually, if he had waited, then they could have, maybe like gone around someone like slightly more conservative. Then he could have done the tariffs, a little bit more strategic. Wait, hold on. Back to the goddamn Dune. I would posit that reading 6 books is the research. You could do it in 6 months. I don't know. Maybe I'll start the first book because I do have it somewhere. Maybe I'll start that and I'll go from there. I'll go from there if I like it. But if I don't like it, I'm not gonna spend all that time, you know? Exactly, Sentient Dildo. Precisely. All right. So I'm looking at this whole thing. I'm like, you're going really hard in Canada. What's that all about? Well, actually, it's really just about manufacturing and reserve currency. Those are like the two biggest things to understand with all this sort of tariff trade war shit. Because I didn't get it. So I started reading this paper. And it's what's it called? It's like the User's Guide to Restructuring the Global Economy or something like that. Essentially, what a lot of this is like a lot of the tariffs that we have in place or that are in place sort of like, you know, on American goods, a lot of them were set up like after World War II, especially the European ones, in an effort to sort of help rebuild Europe's economy after the war, after like that kind of, you know, that whole kerfuffle. And they just kind of were never really readjusted. And just, you know, we had restructured our economy to be a mostly import economy. Now, the other thing here that needs to be understood, and this is something that like I probably still don't understand, but I'm trying to understand it, is a lot of it has to do with reserve currency. So basically, I'm going to try my best. You guys are going to laugh at me. Okay, right. So because a lot of countries own our reserve currency, the dollar is actually like overvalued. And so what that ends up doing is sort of like suppressing like American manufacturing and also giving us a bigger disadvantage on trade. So even though like the tariff might be at a certain percentage, it's even another percentage because it's like the dollar is overvalued. This is like the complex economic stuff I don't really understand. But I also understand that it's like the reserve currency is not subject to inflation in the same way that the actual dollar is. So it's almost like countries are also getting rich on our own currency while ours devalues. And then we have like these disadvantaged trade dynamics with all these other countries. So as I understand it, a lot of this really is more about restructuring like the world economy so that like manufacturing comes back to the United States. We devalue we devalue either our own currency. Yeah, I think so. We devalue our own currency and then raise the value of like or inflate their other shit. See, I already lost it. Like it is so complex, and I do not have like a finance background, but I'm struggling, and I think I get it. But it's like it's more about. So I've read this paper, and then I've reread sections of it, and then I had Grok summarize it for me. I still don't really get it, but okay, here we go. I'll just read this. Won't be my ideas. Sorry, Sentient Dildo. I know. Sorry, Latino. This is boring. I get it. But I struggle to understand this, so I wanted to talk about it. Okay. It underpins U.S. financial and security dominance, but overburdens its economy via an overvalued currency. Trump's reforms, per the paper, aim to retain the dollar's role while redistributing its costs through tariffs and currency strategies, aligning trade policy with national security to lessen the strain without triggering destabilization away from the dollar. So yeah, so it's really just that it's incredibly imbalanced for us unless we're constantly importing. And we can't really export, like at least on the competitive level. And so eventually, like our manufacturing and our just sort of ability to sort of have a infrastructure devalues as like the years go on. And this is what Trump's trying to correct. It's not some nefarious, like poorly thought out, like ass backwards thing. It's actually like well grounded in like these complex economics that they're not bullshit. It's like I'm having trouble reconveying it to you, but when I was reading it, I was like, no, I get it. I see you're switching to another well-researched topic. Listen, I still, look, if you expect me to be an expert on anything, I don't know. I'm not sure what you're doing here. You know what I mean? I don't know what you expect out of me because I won't be an expert on anything. Read more porn. All right. I don't know. I don't read porn, but all Just to clarify that, the Liberals installed new globalist banker leader. The election is still happening. Oh, okay. I maybe I misunderstood. I'm sure that I did. I was watching all that stuff on like the British like Parliament, and boy, I didn't understand any of that shit. Century Dill, yes, Trump would need to devalue the dollar for his plan to work. I don't see him doing it though. Well, it looks like he's doing it. I don't know. It looks like he's doing it with like the trade war and the tariffs and stuff like that. But then again, I'm like new to these topics. You know what I mean? This is the type of stuff I don't understand any of this. I had to reading about it. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But that's like the first I've ever even thought about it. Reserve currency, gun to my head. Define that. I'd be like, I have like a loose concept of what this stuff is. But I do think it's interesting, and it's like because it's like. I feel like I'm definitely not alone in not understanding this because I think people just see tariffs like, oh, he's a bully, he's fucking anti-trade. It's like, you know, I don't know, bring yours down. We won't have a problem. Well, we don't want to hurt our companies. Like, well, we want to help ours. It's actually not that crazy. Listless. A couple of things I manufacture in Canada, particularly with the cars. They are built in pieces that go back and forth between the borders all the time, among other things like that. I saw that. It was like really wild too. It was something like aluminum is like milled here and then sent to Canada. Canada's something to it. Then it goes back to America and then it goes back over here and it goes to like 4 different places. You're just like, damn, can't one place just do all that? Like, I don't know. I'm sure I don't understand it. But I was just like, I guess like that has something to do with it too. I just think I don't understand this stuff, but I think overall Canada's just trying to play tough, but they have no leverage. It's like the economic like trading, like the economic like leverage is so one-sided. So I don't know. Just get along. You know what I mean? Just stop trying to fight. I don't know. Did you destroy all of your American liquor? Destroy all your American whiskey, listless, just like dumping Maker's Mark down the drain. Like, nah, not me. Also, some of Trump's points, Canada is super protectionist, and we've had insane tariffs on the U.S. for a good long time. Yeah, it's true. Most of them are just agricultural tariffs, though. Like, I was kind of struggling to find any tariffs that were not just purely agricultural, which I'm not sure how significant that impact is. Look, if we're going to start worrying about agricultural tariffs, like, well, let's start worrying about agricultural subsidies in this country first before we go after, like, you know, the rest of the world. Like, we subsidize the hell out of our ag businesses here, and I hate that. It's like I've been a thorn in my side for 20 years. Like, stop doing that. Stop subsidizing profitable companies. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know why we do that. That's why we have such an overabundance of corn and absolutely everything, because the farmers get such subsidies for all that shit. Let's stop there. You know, let's start there, and then we can move on to Canada with agricultural tariffs. So it's like, you're not wrong. And that's the thing I think is so revealing about all this. Like, going back to the transparency I was talking about, Dildo, is it's like, you hear that, oh, Trump wants to tariff all these nations. And it's just like, what are our import tariffs? Like 4%. What is Europe's 10? You're like, wait, that's much less. You're just like, yeah, but he's a Nazi when he does it. And you're like, but okay, but that is imbalanced. Like, I did the math on this. Once again, I used AI, so I think I'm just going to become a transhumanist. But I had Grok help me with this. But I might have had ChatGPT because X was down yesterday, which I didn't talk about today. Oh well. But I was looking at like, so I guess like the EU's taxes are high. Shock. But like they have their VAT tax is like 10% on cars or whatever. And here in like, I don't know, Texas, it's like 6. And there was also like the import duty, but they're very different. Basically what I discovered was that if 2 cars exist, right, for the exact same price, let's say a $40,000 car, I'm trying to get these numbers right because now I'm just trying to remember it. But it was like a $40,000 car is manufactured in Germany and a $40,000 car is manufactured in America. And if you ship the German car to America and you ship the American car to Germany, the German car costs like Sorry, the American car costs like $12,000 more in Germany than the German car costs in America. And you're like, that's a trade imbalance. Like if the same price car costs $12,000 more when we export it, it's like, then yeah, that's in a complete imbalance. It's a one-sided trade agreement. Yeah. That's not wrong. It should at least be matched. You know, it's like, obviously you guys have super high sales tax. Okay. But it shouldn't be that imbalanced. That's crazy. I don't know. I like this new, well-researched, hyper-political Matt. He's making some excellent points. Seems very proficient, lol. You know, I think you're being sarcastic, Sentient Dildo. I think you're being sarcastic. I don't know. Did you read for a part in The Big Short? I could see you faking your way through the audition. Love you. Good to see you, Legabolus. Thanks, pal. That guy is actually good at dialogue. And I did like The Big Short. And he was actually, that back in whenever that was made, he was, I remember watching that movie, and he was like pretty critical of the Obama administration at the end. I mean, he didn't, yeah, he kind of said it, you know, he sort of pointed it out at the end of that movie. He's like talking about how they didn't change a goddamn thing. And it was just like, oh, based, you know, coming from the Hollywood guy to shit on Obama. Pretty based. That movie was actually pretty good. Most of it was agricultural, but a couple was steel and aluminum. That's interesting. I'd have to look at it. And I would believe that. Like I said, like looking into all this sort of global trading like dynamics, it's like, oh, these are really unfair. These are really one-sided. Like, it's not right. We should be able to compete equally. It doesn't have, you know, it's like whatever. You want to tax your people, whatever you don't want to tax. Okay, fine. But it's like, you know, these import taxes are super expensive. I don't know. I just feel like it should be balanced. I feel like reciprocal is totally fair. And it's like, you know, yeah, you're going to get a better deal. Like, it's like you're getting a better deal on exports. Like, so it's making your country richer and ours poor. Fuck that. Shit. EU subsidizes you to not grow food on your land. Shit is crazy. Goddamn. Government sucks. So sick of government. Are you talking to AI? No wonder. That's gross. Hey, he gets me. He gets me, okay? Me and Grok, we understand each other. Oh, it's super helpful. Like I said, I do not use a search engine anymore. I just can't. It's so much more helpful. They have gotten things wrong, though. I've noticed that. It's definitely not infallible or omnipotent yet. Like, there's certain things where I was like, how did you get that wrong? Like, I was watching South Park last night, and I was like, give me a random high-rated episode that, you know, people really like. Just, you know, an episode. Because it's like, there's like 30 seasons or whatever, and I was just like, I don't know which episode I want to watch. Just, you know, wanted AI to just pick me one. So it did, and then I went to this season, and it had like the season episode number wrong. I was like, how'd you get that wrong? And that's weird. And it's like there was one thing too. I was asking it like what the longest recorded NFL field goal was, and then I was like, oh, what yard did they kick? What yard line did they kick that off of? And it's like the 35. And I was like, there's no way that's true. That's like a chip shot relative to the longest ever. And he's like, oh, you're right. And I was like, why are you getting little things like that wrong? So sometimes they do get shit wrong. Chris Cullen, Massie and Rand Paul were Doge before Doge. Yeah, dude. I mean, I think like if you're like a libertarian, you should be really happy with the current administration because I don't think they've ever had the profile that they have now. Libertarians are like genuinely part of the political conversation. You know, like it was going around like conservatives on X were pretty split. Massie or Trump on this one, which I thought was like, that's pretty impressive. You know, that means it's really part of the conversation, like really like a figurehead. It's like if you're split, right? If you're like, I like what Trump's doing, but Massie's right about this, or Massie's a really principled guy, don't go after it. Like, it's just like, wow, you know? If I were libertarian, I'd be really happy with the way things are. Okay. Peepoo, don't really drive American cars in Europe. Don't think it's a big market for U.S. car makers except for Tesla, but you get tax breaks for those because they are electric and gay. I've heard that too, but, you know, in my little Grok research, I was like, what would be a comparable car to like the Mustang, right? Now, I know that European infrastructure is much different. Like the roads are much more narrow and it doesn't have the same kind of like, they're not really built for our cars. So totally understood. However, like I was looking in Germany, I was like, what car would be comparable to like the Ford Mustang? Like my ex-girlfriend had a Ford Mustang and it was unbelievably powerful. It had like it's over 300 horsepower out of a 4-cylinder engine. I didn't even know that was possible. I was like, that blew my mind. I was like, how did they even engineer that? But it's way less factory expensive than the most equivalent in Germany was like a BMW, something like that, which was like another like $18,000, like just factory, like sticker price. I mean, I feel like people in Europe would be like, I'd like to have 300 horsepower for less money. You know, like that would be kind of sick. Like I know oil's a lot more expensive too. And like, you know, oil efficiency, like I get it. Like the cars aren't really designed for the European market, but like they could be. You know what I mean? Like if it was like a reasonable trade balance, I feel like, yeah, they probably could even cater to the European markets. And like fuel efficiency is getting good. Like cars are getting much like crazy fuel efficient recently. So I'm sure I'm sure there's ways that you could, like what are the European needs? You know, like I'm sure that we could make cars for the European market if we wanted to. Come on now, Matt. Lolberts are never happy, lol. That's facts. Facts. Is this an ad read? Not today. Not today, Man of War. But you know what? Maybe in the future. Keep your eyes out, folks. Okay. This is going to be it. Yep. Roads are way too small and would just be a hassle to park and drive that doesn't stop some people. Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't. I mean, I get it. But, you know, it's like I understand there's kind of like a point of pride at the kind of quality of public transportation some parts of Europe. I get that, you know. And it's like if it's easier, it's easier. Like when I lived in New York City, having a car was a nightmare. Like, just like dragging this like anchor around with you. It's so hard to park and they're so expensive and just such a hassle and you had to move it. And it's like the worst. So I get it. They're putting 4 poppers in American cars now too. It's a sad sight. You mean like a 4-banger, like a 4-cylinder engine? Is that what you mean? Yeah, they got balls though. My car is a 4-cylinder and it's like I can chirp the tires if, you know, off the line. They're making those things efficient. That's true. Roads in European towns are not designed for driving. Mm-hmm. Plus, trains are way more prevalent to get around. Yeah. They're expensive, though. At least in some countries. And, like, in London, I was like, or England, I was like, how much is the train? Like, I couldn't believe it. It was like 75 euros or something. I was like, for the train? Like, your commute? That's crazy. That's so expensive. So, I don't know. But anyway, all right, that's going to do it for this episode of the MFer Podcast. I thank you very much for watching. You guys are radical human beings. Like I said, I do have a new channel where I'm going to be talking kind of like, you know, sort of like the theory. Oh, wait, what is this? Hold on. Come on, man. American cars need a V8. Look, they're beautiful, but I don't even really like the new V8 American like muscle cars. Like, my uncle had a Challenger, and it was like bulky and it didn't drive well, and it was like it was like clunky. I didn't like it. The Corvette is amazing though. The Corvette is really beautiful. And yeah, I'm with you. Especially like vintage muscle, like old Camaros and old Mustangs. Those are beautiful. But like I said, new channel, Foulball Film and Television. Like I said, I'm going to be talking like more just sort of video essay style about movies and television. I think it's relatively self-explanatory. There's one video up there now. It's about The Expanse. And like I said, my kind of trying to understand why The Expanse is such a great show and yet still not all that widely even known, let alone watched or appreciated. So that's the subject of the first essay. It's going to be more, and that's going to be like the tenor of that channel. If you're interested, check it out. If you're not, don't. You know, I hope that if you guys watch it, you know, it actually interests you, and subscribe if you're actually compelled, because like I said, otherwise it can actually drag down the algorithm, which is just so ridiculous. It's all 4-popper turbos now. Boo. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I like my 4-popper. I never heard that expression, but I like my 4-popper turbo. But it's the most powerful car I've ever had, so I'm a fan. Low spec. What up, doggy? Good to see you. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all very much for joining me. I'll see you next week. You guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Peace out.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?
Yeah, boy!